This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Right, hello and welcome to another edition of the Blues Focus podcast with me, your host, John Graham. I can't even speak. I'm going to start again.
You can't spake.
I can't speak. I just can't believe it's like 4 positive pods on the trot. It's gone. Okay, right.
Take 2.
Yeah. Hi and welcome to the Blues Focus podcast with me, your host, John Graham, and with my co-host, Sam. Sam, how the devil are you?
The devil is very good with me, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, really good, really good. Still, I think buzzing from Saturday, to be honest. I think we said on the last pod, lots of pressure for different reasons on that game, whether that be just getting 3 points to stay in touch with that top 6, or all the celebrations that were going on sort of off the pitch, and old players coming back. One in particular that's hilarious, Mikel Fossil that turned up. That was an absolute shocker. But if it was flawless, it just wouldn't be the same. But other than that, I mean, it's just chalk and cheese to what we're used to. I mean, every time I go up now, it's just like, I can't believe it. And it was... They sort of did us proud on what was a massive game. Did you go up earlier than you would do normally? Do anything different to what you would do?
No, not really. I mean, we left at the same sort of time. We tend to get into we go through the tilt and turnstiles, and then we just congregate in the little outside bit where the food and the drinks and stuff are. We did go in a little bit early this time with the promise of something exciting at 2:30. So we were at our seats by 2:30. I'm not sure if it warranted the level of excitement that we were given to get there that much earlier, but yeah, that's probably another thing. But yeah, just a fraction earlier, I guess, than normal, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best weather. Let's be honest. So when the obviously new background, because I think the TIFO's been muted for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was either going to be, because where we were sat, which was in the main stand on the sort of halfway line, they're either going to be abseilers or it was a TIFO. So I'm glad it was the latter. So how were you directly behind that, or?
Yes, I mean, based on where your background is, I don't know how to describe this now because we've just been having a 10-minute conversation about whether our backgrounds are the right or the wrong way around. To what looks like your left shoulder, I am sort of like just to the outside of that TIFO. Okay. So yeah, we were kind of behind it, but just behind the last edge of it, if you like. So it took us a little while to actually figure out what it said, trying to read it backwards. But you know what it's like. You see pictures on social media and you actually get to see it in all its glory. And I thought it was nice. It's a good touch. It's different to all of the other ones that I've seen, and there's been some good ones, and there's been some very, very bad ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it just shows that we're multicultural. It shows that we're on the rise, and that we're planning to move forward and all of that. So I think it was a good touch.
Yeah, and as stupid as it sounds, I think things like that do mean a lot to the fans, to be honest. Yeah. It just shows that we are, as a club, thinking about what's becoming, I suppose, normal. Certainly if you're looking towards the Premier League, then it's just things like this that become the norm, and they've got the pyros and the fireworks and all that sort of stuff. And whilst it doesn't necessarily, it is not the difference between winning and losing, but for the fans, it does help with the atmosphere. And
yeah,
who knows, the way that we've got the build up to the game sorted with all the bars and fan zones and everything else, people getting there early, maybe got a couple on board that I wouldn't normally have in the past. And we're up for it from the start. And who knows, it's all about those sort of marginal gains, isn't it? And we're starting every game really, really strongly. And I made the point, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, we're making big chances in literally the first minute of most games, and we don't tend to take them. And it's like it feels that it's a bit too soon. But it's still a massive chance. If that chance was 35 minutes in, you're probably pulling your hair out. But because it's the first minute, you probably just got yourself settled, and it's like, okay, well, that's a decent start. But I mean, he didn't do too much wrong, did he, Damari? But he was just one of those. And but I'll let you maybe carry on from here. So, as Damari was, pretty close within the first minute. What do you think of his performance first 20 minutes?
Well, yeah, so we've I know I have in particular, and we have as a collective talked about it a few times since we've been back, and I specifically mentioned that I was starting to get a little bit worried about him a few weeks back, and I still think there's more to come from him, but I think Saturday was by far, and I think they asked him in his post-match press conference and he was a little bit muted on it, but that was by far his best performance since he's been back. They just couldn't deal with him. And what I like about him and Roberts is they're both very similar in terms of they both want the ball and they want to run at players. The only criticism I sometimes level with Gray is that he makes it a little bit easy to predict what he's going to do. That he's more often than not he's going to cut inside, and it makes it quite easy to read. Whereas I think this was one of the first games where I saw him actually either play a pass early or go both ways, and they just couldn't deal with it. I mean, the ball from Cochrane over the top was brilliant to start with. The touch for that first goal was just from Damari Gray, was exactly what we thought we were going to get from him all the time. It was just, he brought it down perfectly and it just went straight into his stride.
Yeah.
And then all he had to do was square it. So we've seen a few glimpses of him doing that anyway. We've seen the glimpses of composure in the final third in terms of his like playing the ball to the right person at the right time. And it just seems to have hit a bit of form now. He's scoring or assisting. I think he's done it in the last 4 games now. So, and that's 3 home, 1 away. So, yeah, I think we're starting to see the best of him again now. And maybe the pressure of coming back and being the homecoming and all of that, maybe that is starting to sort of disappear because he can see that there's other players in the team that can also perform and it's not all down to him. Whereas maybe to start with, he came thinking that he had to be the one. And to be honest, there were games when we needed that as well because the others weren't quite performing. So maybe it was just a bit too much pressure at the start. And now he's managed to understand that he's one of a team and not having to do it all himself. So, yeah, brilliant. Really, really pleased for him. A little bit disappointed that he wasn't able to stay on a little bit longer still. But Davis seems to like to make that change almost every game, doesn't he? So I think we're just sort of used to that now. But, yeah, really, really good. Really pleased to see him playing the way he is at the minute.
Yeah, and maybe in his defence slightly at the start of the season, before we, I'd probably class the sort of obviously the whole game to a degree. I think that's where things have started to switch quite significantly. But up until that point, we were so heavily biased to the right-hand side that it never really came over to him. Cochrane is getting a little bit further forward than he did in the start of the season, I think. He's not bombing on, but it doesn't seem to be as disjointed down the left-hand side. Whereas I think where he was getting the ball at the start of the season, we probably weren't doing him a lot of favours, if I'm being honest. And he, as you said in the interview, he did make the point that the league that he's come out of, who knows? I mean, I wouldn't profess to be an aficionado of the of the league over in Saudi, to be honest, but it's not going to be anywhere near the intensity that he'd be facing now. And I do feel that is going to take time to get used to. Yeah. I do think the way we're playing now, it's no coincidence that he's finding his form a little bit more. And great, I hear what you're saying about the subs. But when we were certainly 3-1 and 4-1 up, I'm like saying, get them all off. Get them all off because there's so many. I mean, it's mental how many games we've got from now until the second week up until the FA Cup game. It is absolutely crazy. And the way that we play, and we've said it before, Roberts, Doyle, Dukes, Damari, Stano, the way that they're playing together as a unit now, we've got to protect them as much as we can because we do want them to play every single game. Now, you don't necessarily have to rotate your squad quite as much as if you can get away with only playing them for 55 minutes, 60 minutes, because if the game's already done and you've got something to protect, you need to take advantage of that as much as you can. And,
Yeah.
that sort of mitigates it against wholesale rotation, because I know it's a fact of life nowadays, but it's just it certainly wouldn't do us any favors at the moment, because it's probably a good sort of way to lead into, we've had that one injury which has been quite significant with Paik, but Leonard's come in, and we did debate, is he going to do the Leonard Doyle, or is he going to do the Doyle Awatta and Samuel coming in? I said I didn't want him to do that, and thankfully he didn't. And I just feel that Leonard, I'm really chuffed for him, because he deserves the chance, and he deserved the chance to play with Doyle, because they're both fabulous footballers. And we keep having the conversation about how good were we versus how bad were the opposition.
Yeah.
And I know, you know what, I don't know, but you can only do it so many times. And if we keep doing it the way that we're doing it, it's probably more about us than it is about the opposition, because that's the one constant, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you think that gelled in the middle of the park?
Yeah, good. I mean, there was this is probably the one instance where I looked and I thought, this is where a Pate would have been really helpful. Is they had a spell, they scored their goal, and then they had about 5 minutes after that where we just couldn't seem to get out of our own half. And for a lot of it, especially the one instance, they were in our box for quite a long, what felt like about half an hour. Yeah. And I remember looking back and watching the highlights afterwards, and that was just one of those instances where Leonard was just a little bit slow in getting back to that player who ended up with the ball. But look, nothing came of it, so you don't have to worry too much. It was comfortable in the end. Other than that, he fitted him well, and quite often midfielders, that they're good when you don't see them. I find that's a good barometer for just a tidy midfielder, because he's not making mistakes. He's not necessarily throwing himself about. He's just steady. And that, with all due respect to him, I wouldn't really expect any more than that. I just expect him to be a good, steady championship midfielder. So yeah, my idea was to stay with the team. Was to put Leonard in instead of Paik. And then at least if that hadn't worked, you still then had the option to maybe at half time to then put Iwata in the middle and Asai Samuel at right back. So I felt like doing it like this gave us a little bit more flexibility moving through the game. Whereas if you did decide to go Iwata and Asai Samuel, if that doesn't work, you're just basically going back to what you could have done anyway. So it just made sense for me. Yeah. And the rest of the team talked for itself. But yeah, happy for Leonard, because we've been quite complimentary of him, because especially when we weren't doing all that well, he was still coming out of it with credit, because he was playing decent football, and he was perhaps a little bit unlucky sometimes. So got his chance now. We still don't know exactly for how long, but like you said before, with all the games that we've got coming up, as long as he plays well, he's got a chance of sticking himself around for at least a handful of games. So yeah, good luck to him.
Yeah, and it's nice to have. I mean, that front, if you take those two and then the four sort of in front of them, they're all really good footballers. And I think testament to that was the second goal. I mean, you're not going to see many better than that. It was just great movement, brave, imaginative, off the cuff, all the things that, it's not just with Davies, it's just full stop. That's what you're screaming out for as a fan. And that second goal, you ain't going to find better team goals anywhere than that. It was just superb. And Roberts is becoming. I didn't know a lot about him, right? Didn't know a lot, but he's getting to the point of, I can't really remember too many wide people that we've had that had just looked so dangerous all the time. And he's taken his time. He hasn't been a world beater from the get-go, but I think that's more out of, a bit like Doyle, it's just trying to find him a way into a system, and maybe Dukes to a degree. But yeah, that goal was just something else. And again, start of the season, we never ever played to Stano's strengths. And Stano looked Bobby average for lots and lots. He just looked like a workhorse, and we know he's so much more than that. But if you don't play to his strengths, What are
Yeah.
you going to do? How many
Yeah.
times did we say that, he's finding himself coming into midfield just to get into the game, influence the game? And now he's got people that are just playing some great football, getting defences turned. And he's so intelligent as a footballer that, it wasn't the perfect cross. It was a bit of a deflection, but he was there first. And it was just such a great goal. And I was, just speaking to my dad about it yesterday, and you're like, I can't remember football to this stand. I just can't remember it. I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen it because even with the promotion teams, it was it's a Steve Bruce side. It was effective.
Yeah.
And I'm not precious. Look, if you got the choice, you want to play the football we're playing at the moment, but winning football is the best kind of football.
Yeah.
But if you can do it with a bit of flair, and we've certainly done that, over the last few weeks, it's a bit of a pinch yourself moment. But the more they do it, the more it becomes normal. And yeah, we can certainly look forward and go, we're in with a squeak here if we keep doing it the way we're doing. But
Yeah.
I was really chuffed for Dukes as well to get his goal. I think he's
Yeah.
deserved that. He was.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when DeGarry first came to Blues, he was super integral to everything we were doing. But he wasn't getting his goals, and then he got a glut of goals. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that the Duck is going to be in that situation. So, what did you think about his performance?
Yeah, I mean, I've liked everything I've seen of him. I mean, even in that very first appearance that we had of him against Port Vale, I know he was rusty and you could tell he hadn't played much, but you could see the he's just got invention. So the ball can come to him and he's already decided what he's going to do next. And I think I talked about it in more detail before about how a lot of players have to take a moment, and that's fine because that's normal. You'd rather they did that than did something they're not capable of, but it's just highlighting his capabilities as a footballer to be able to just simply receive the ball and straight away be doing something to bring somebody else into the game. And we've had over the years, we've had players who are good footballers. We just have, even in some of our worst teams, we've had one or two players who are technically very good. I mean, when I was in the stands the other day, I was even saying, and I wasn't a fan of this player a lot of the time, but Bakuna, for example, he would love to play in a team like what we've got now
Yeah,
because we've got other people who can play this 1-2 touch football really quickly and fast flowing. But we didn't have that before. He was having to pass the ball out to an Ollie Burke, for example. So it just shows now, and this is why after that Sheffield Wednesday game, when we first came back on, and we sort of mentioned about how the attacking players are almost being starved. It's just totally flipped, and it's no surprise that all of a sudden, not saying we're geniuses because everybody was calling for this, but just letting those four in particular play football. And that's why goals like that second goal come about, because that is exactly what happened. You're giving the ball, all four of those players touch the ball
yeah,
going into that goal. And I'm pretty confident, apart from maybe Roberts, they all took one touch as well. So,
yeah,
it just shows that when you've got players like that, it doesn't matter how good a defender you are, it's going to be so hard to deal with somebody passing it away first time, flicking it around the corner. And so, yeah, but they're doing it. It's not just like a one hit wonder, is it? They're doing it 3, 4, 5 times a game now. And it's
yeah,
perfect. It's exactly what we need. And the thing is, as you go forward with this, what was a shame, I suppose, about the Middlesbrough game with the Duck being isolated was that it sort of put a stop to it, didn't it? Because one of those four cogs was gone essentially for
yeah,
that game. But there's no reason why you can't find a way to slot other players into that. So say if you can keep 3 out of those 4 in the team, you could drop somebody else in there and probably still do a half decent job at that,
yeah.
just not maybe to the same standard. So yeah, but in terms of the Duck, I mean, we've praised him a lot even before he scored his goals. It's just like I said, it's just quality that he's got, and you can see it. And he almost demands like this presence being on the pitch. There's just something about him. It's almost like a bit of a swagger. He's just, yeah. I said it before and probably went a little bit too over the top saying that he was class and all the rest of it. But that's just what I get with him. I look at him and I think he is absolute mustard for where we are currently. He's exactly what we need.
Mate, if you break it down into very basic terms, footballing terms, he looks head and shoulders above anybody that we've played against. I'd probably caveat that with I think the Norwich number 9's a cracking player. side. He's a cracking player. He's
Yeah.
just in a spot in it at the moment. They're bereft of confidence. I don't think they'll go down, to be honest. I think they've got enough, but and they did show bits and pieces during that game.
Yeah.
But, if we say that Dukes is probably I think where we are in the league, he's probably in the top 6 or 7 forward players in the league for what he does. It's a second tier of bloody English football. So, he's a very, very, he is a very valuable player for us. And we've said it before, it does. And we due a bit of luck as a club. And maybe it's the direction and we're manifesting lots of things. It's all heading in the right direction. But I go back to it, Iwata at right back. That's been the catalyst. That started it, and Doyle getting fit. Those two things are without doubt. And the bust up between Neumann and Davis, that's probably settled down. Well, it has settled down now. There's been certain key, and they all happened together. They all happened together. When Iwata came into right back, Neumann came back into the team. Doyle started to play more. Roberts got fitter, and it all started to gel. And it's and I don't think you can. And again, I've said it before. At the start of the season, we just didn't have all those players, and that's probably why it was a little bit disjointed. But the good thing is we've struck on something now, and if Dukes does get injured, the only player, and I've said it before, I think we've got in the squad that has got the same profile is Willumsson, and I think it's almost a like for like.
Mm-hmm.
Same, stature, great touch, same pace, which is not nondescript. But do you know what I mean? That's like for nowhere near as good a player, but could do a job in that role.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting, more so than Dykes, because Dykes is a totally different dynamic of a player.
Yeah.
So we conceded, but before that, how wasn't that a penalty?
I know. I think at this point, I know it shouldn't be a thing, but sometimes I can imagine there's a mindset of a referee when a team is on the back of 8 or 9 losses in 10 or 11 games or whatever it is, that they're already 2-0 down. They've got a new manager. You can't imagine. I imagine there's just a very, very, very minute possibility that ref's, if he's not 100% sure, he's just decided to go with them just as a bit of a, oh, come on, we can't have it all against them, because if it does go wrong, bloody hell. But yeah, I mean, again, it's another one of those instances where it's the other side of the stadium to me. But even we were going, I mean, surely, and I think it was, so they came out with the ball, they got to halfway, and a very similar challenge was done by Neumann, and then he gave a foul, and then we're all just a bit like, hang on, that's it's exactly the same. And you could see the players all saying the same thing, like pointing and going, well, that is exactly what's just happened over there, so why is it any different? So yeah, you just mark it down as it's a championship referee on a Saturday afternoon, isn't it? You are basically getting, I don't know, anybody who's the 10th best referee down, aren't you? So
yeah, but the reality is they get one back, because 2-0's a horrible, even though we were dominating. And you've made this point, and you're absolutely right. In the championship, there's quality. Mm-hmm. There is quality. You're always going to play against quality for periods of a game. And once they got the one back, all of a sudden you're like, okay. And then Neumann made that a really, really good block at 2-1. Yeah. And all of a sudden, what should have been a penalty and arguably, hopefully a 3-0.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, without an intervention, it's 2-2. Their tails are up. It's a different game. So that's how important it is. But, it didn't matter in the end. But without being critical, because we don't, there's no need to be critical at the moment. But from an observational point of view, I just sometimes, we defend. There's never an outball. Never, ever an outball. So we're all really compact. And it's sort of, if we get the turnover, you've just got, there's no outlet unless you're playing very intricate passes where you don't really want to be playing intricate passes. Yeah. And you're sort of inviting it on yourselves. And there was a period in the second half where we did it again and we gave up a load of chances. But, but 4-1, it's a shrug of the shoulders, like the game's over. But I think we just need to be wary of getting into that sort of scenario where we're just defending really as a complete block without having, whether it be a Damari that comes into the halfway line and just stands on the centre half or whatever, and just has an outlook that we can, even if we don't get the ball, we could put pressure on the pass.
Yeah.
So, but that's probably being a little bit picky, but there's no doubt about it that they had moments, didn't they? And
yeah.
And then it's so, but then we got the relief, didn't we? So third goal, talk me through it.
Yeah, I mean, again, being that side of the pitch at the start, we were all a little bit confused as to how 1 minute the keeper appeared to have had it, and the next minute he's got an open goal and he's putting it in the back of the net. So we were a little bit confused until we saw the highlights, and then afterwards we just thought to ourselves, "God, like when everything's going bad for you, when your keeper is parrying it down into the 6-yard box from what looked like a relatively tame header." So when you're sort of thinking, bloody hell, if you're a Norwich fan there, you're sort of questioning everything, aren't you? So, I mean, look, we did well to get it in there in the first place. A little bit fortunate that it sort of came back to us. And, I mean, I think it was Iwata who put the header in. I mean,
of course it was. It was the right back.
Really probably should have scored, shouldn't he, from there? The only thing, the bit of credit that I'll give to him is the ball sort of floated to him rather than came to him with any sort of pace. So especially when you're not sort of familiar and you're not necessarily known for your heading ability, to be able to generate enough power to really work the keeper. So yeah, it's one of them. I think the keeper should have done a lot better. But you hear about it all the time. It's not always luck that a player like the Duck is in that position.
No, absolutely not.
He's made an educated guess to say there's a chance that if the keeper doesn't hold on to it, or if it bounces off somebody or hits the post or whatever, this is the area that the ball is going to come to. So yeah, like I say, a little bit of fortune, more in the sense that I think the keeper should have done a lot better with it. But you take it, don't you?
You do, and like I said, with Iwata, I think he plays officially right back, but also centre mid, and he just plays off the right on the top line. I mean, the miles he must get through. It is, and the only time that he gets slightly exposed is if it is a quick counter, because he's never in that position. He recovers quickly, but he's never. It's not like Cochrane where he tends to be there or thereabouts at left back. But but this is all about risk and reward, isn't it? Mm-hmm. In the past, we've had fullbacks bombing on, but we're creating nothing.
Yeah.
So when it does break down, and if we concede, we at the other end we don't look like we're going to score. Whereas now, you do fancy us to create chances. So if we do concede a soft one, there always feels that there's going to be a route back. We're going to create a chance. So that's why it's different. I haven't changed my view of. I don't want to see back in the day, a Laird and a Samuel overlapping an inverted winger, but because Roberts is a natural one, they don't need to do it anymore. No. So I want to see more of the Iwata show. He is just, I mean, it's really hard now, which is an amazing sign. Beadle played well, and he's definitely fair play to the manager, right? Mm-hmm. Fair play to the manager. I wouldn't have dropped Allsop, but I think Beadle's come in and he's done a hell of a job. Some people criticise him a bit for the goal. I think that's harsh.
Yeah, I think that's harsh as well. I mean, we've seen Allsop play that pass over the top to Cochrane so many times, and it's worked in the past. The only thing you could say is it was probably just a little bit floaty, like it didn't have perhaps enough pace, but chances are if he'd have put any more pace on it, it goes out for a throw anyway, because there wasn't exactly much room for him to get it there. I think that's the only thing that we were saying before, is that the thing that I liked about Beadle, the confidence that he'd started to show, was that sometimes it's okay to just get rid of it. Maybe that was an instance where it would have just been better to go, right. I mean, look, I think there's a lot to be said about the Norwich press for that, at that point as well, because they had pushed really high up at that point. So he was kind of backed into a corner a little bit. But I think maybe just, any criticism that you could say is maybe just every now and again in that instance, just get it out as far as you can and put it out for a throw in if you have to, because at least you can get back into shape. So, but no, I don't think he deserves any criticism, because again, similar to what I said about midfielders, goalkeepers tend to get a better reputation when you're not talking about them, and we're not really having to talk about him because he's not really doing much.
No, and I made a bit of a song and dance about him going AWOL a couple of times. He hasn't done that since. It's not listening to me, but because it was so he just wasn't getting there, was he? And I think you made the point. He's committing, but then not, and then going again, and that hesitation is a red card potentially. And he got away with one. It might have been Hull, I can't, something like that.
It was one of the home.
It,
Yeah, I
it,
think it was.
it wasn't good.
No.
But
The other thing I've noticed as well is, and I don't know if this is just a thing that's creeping in with confidence with him, but he's a giant, so he should be able to do this. But he comes out and claims things that you don't expect him to claim anymore. And I think there was a couple of instances in the first half where he took out Neumann, Clara, and everybody else that was in his way just to catch a cross. And I think the last goalkeeper that I felt comfortable with doing that was probably John Ruddy, and he wasn't amazing at it because he wasn't the biggest. So, generally speaking, we've had goalkeepers. I think of like Etheridge, for example, who used to come out and he could miss the air. He was that good at missing it that it was just he's better off just staying in between the posts. But you get my point though, is that the goalkeepers that we've had, they haven't always been like commanding, and I didn't get the sense of him being commanding when he first came into the team, but that seems to have very quickly become a good trait of his, that he seems a lot more sort of strong now than what he was when he first came in. So again, I think that's just confidence. That's something that a goalkeeper needs to be exposed to get better at, don't they? So he's definitely doing that.
Yeah, and then you go through all of the team. You'd be harsh to say anybody got lower than 7, but the majority were probably 8, and that's not normal. Certainly not normal for us. And obviously, as we go into the second half, you're expecting probably a bit of a reaction from them. You'd like to think that third goal and the timing of it is killed them. That's a change of a team talk. It's just going to knock the stuffing out of them, and given the run they're on and what they've been through, you can be the most dynamic of managers. It was just one of those days. But they'd have wanted to get a reaction in the second half, and we go back to Damari doing the other type of work that, in fairness to him, this season he's put in some really crunchy tackles, and I really enjoyed his interview after the game. He's really articulate. He's bright. That was really impressive, and you can tell there's character there, and you always want that in your team. And I think that character was really well sort of displayed when he won the ball and played, just the inch perfect pass. Again, live, I'm thinking keeper probably should have come out. I've looked at it in the replays, and I'm like, I don't know. Stano's he's not
always had that, didn't he?
Yeah, he's not lightning, but he's fast enough, and he still had a lot to do. And that finish is the Stano of. It's probably harsh to say the Stano of old, because he's not been poor.
No, I agree with you though.
But do you know what I mean? Did you think he was going to score?
Yeah, I did. It took me back to his first season with us on loan, and we all were saying it, every game, that as soon as he went through 1-on-1, you just knew he was going to score, and we haven't had that for a long time. I think we touched on it in one of the more recent pods about how it's not that he's become a bad player, but it's that his game has had to change because of circumstance. So last season in particular, he was never going to score goals like that because we were never going to be the team to run in behind. We were always the team that had the opposition camped in their own half. So last year was always going to be much more difficult for him, and for him to still get the number of goals that he did is testament. And people call him Pensfield, but you've still got to put them away, haven't you? But what we're seeing again now...
That was a fucking good pen, wasn't it?
Oh, well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But what we're seeing now, though, is we're seeing, like I said, I've said this so many times, that the ego of the teams in the Championship, and probably rightly so, is that every single team is going to believe they can beat us. Whereas last season, every single team were prepared to lose to us. So you are going to have opportunities, especially when you're in front, where this can happen. And the thing I'll say about Damari Gray as well is that I'm surprised that he played that ball, because the Damari Gray that I think we all probably know probably 99 times out of 100 would have then decided to run at that player because he would have felt, I've taken the first man out, he's gone, he's on the deck, and
Yeah.
now it's 2v2 against your two, without being horrible, slug centre halves,
Yeah. No.
experienced centre halves, but they've got no pace. So
Yeah.
I'm expecting in that situation that he's going to run. Not for a minute am I expecting him to play an inch perfect pass. And I think even there was a bit of hesitation from I think it was Duffy for them, that he almost looked like he stopped, and I don't know what, something must have gone through his mind that either he just knew he wasn't going to get there, or he thought maybe he was offside, or I don't know what happened there, but just that split second just basically gave Stano all the time in the world to make the decision on what to do. And you can't underestimate that touch to just square yourself off a little bit, because then all of a sudden you open the whole goal. And then all the goalkeeper can do then is just try and make himself big. He's not going to commit anywhere. So just dinking it over him like that, it just shows. I mean, when you play at the level of football that I have, which isn't even technically a level because it's that poor, but to have the composure when you're running at full speed, when you know you've got two players running behind you and you've got a goalkeeper running towards you, to then just dink it just so perfectly under the bar. That is just a player that's got ability running through his veins, and he's only just turned 23, so there's so much more to come.
There is, and you say that touch it takes him in, it sort of squares him off. That's if you, as a centre half, that's sending off territory, because he's already beaten you. He's cutting across you, and the old tangle of legs. Historically you get away with that. Now you just don't get away with it. That would have been a red card. But the finish was sublime. His numbers are ridiculous. The amount of goals, sort of involvement since he's been back at the club. I know you've got League One, but I've got you absolutely right. You try and be creative in, away to Mansfield. It's just, you're never ever going to get any space. I don't think we helped ourselves out in many instances last season, but we get 111 points. What do you want? It's a world record breaking season. So, and this is where, certainly over the last, I would say 6-7 games, certainly probably the whole game was the turning point, even though we lost it, I think, where there was this totally different approach. First 20, and who knew Keshi Anderson playing at 10 was a catalyst. It's good times, and fitness is going to be key. Injuries are going to be key. We have had our share. It's not like we haven't had them. So it's not like we've got to this position by having same 11 week in, week out. We just haven't. So we've had a bit of that. So hopefully we're not due too much more in the near future. But just going on to his subs, ironically, when the game was dead, and for me, as I said, I'd have just taken all of the key protagonists off. I'd have just got rid of them because obviously, again, Blues focus bingo, it's a quick turnaround, and it's Albion away. You want all those, you want all them firing.
Yeah, of course you do.
For multitude of reasons, it's a massive game. So it's probably worth talking about that now. So, Albion are in a really, really tough run. When I saw they were 2-0 up and they got beat 3-2, it's not like Villa. I've got no sort of axe to grind with Albion. I mean, I grew when I first started watching the Blues. Albion had an unbelievable team, like really, really good team. When Atkinson was there, and they had Brian Robson and all those just fabulous players, played really good football. So I've never really had an issue with them. They're a rival, and but there's bragging rights. So how do you think it's going to play out? I mean, selection and just their form, really.
Yeah, I mean, selection, I would just expect it to be the exact same. I mean, I'm not aware that any of the injured players are back in contention yet. So, you're not even probably going to make changes to the bench. I think you are literally just going to pick the exact same squad as long as you can. So unless anything crops up, or, if anyone's struggling afterwards. And I know it's only a few days between games, but a lot of those players have just had 2 weeks international break off. So I would think they should be more than capable of going in. I mean, I know what I said about Gray, and I was a bit disappointed. That was probably more of a sentimental reason. I'd kind of just wanted him to stay on a little bit longer just because he was playing so well. I just wanted to see a bit more of it. But in terms of the logistics, I understand exactly why it was done. And likewise with Stansfield and the Duck. And in truth, if both of them had scored one goal each, they probably would have been brought off a little bit sooner. The fact that they were both sort of on the verge of a hat trick is probably why he didn't make his normal sort of 60-minute subs and extended it to 70 minutes instead. Yeah. And then he just realised, look, nothing's going to change now. Let's just... A hat trick is great, but it's more important that we've got them fit and firing for Wednesday. So, yeah, it made perfect sense. I mean... I'm not going to go on about it too long because we feel like we're doing this every week now, but we were talking about Kyogo, and I'm only going to make this very quick. What I think is happening now, well, and all of us are talking about this, is that we are trying to force him to score now. Like, we are trying to play to him to get him into a position to score. And that's okay when you're 4-0 up or 4-1 up or anything like that. But like we've said about it before as well, if you're losing or it's 1-1 or, you know, maybe even just 2-1, we can't be doing that. So if that's what we've got to do to try and get him to score, I'd rather we didn't bring him on. I'd rather we brought somebody else on for a couple of games and just stop doing that, because what we've proved in these few games, especially the home games, is it's all about the team, isn't it? There hasn't been any like standout individuals that have... They're the reason that we've won 4-0. It's been the whole team has turned up and played really, really well. I just don't want it to become this thing where we bring him on with half an hour to go every single game and we just try and get every single cross to him, every single pass to him, and just hope that he's going to put one in. And I think he's more likely to score now if we just play naturally, if we just play the way that we're playing, because the chances are falling. I think they will fall to him eventually, but just not if we're constantly trying to force it. So that would be, I do still think he will come good. I believe, or when I say good, I think we will see a better version of him again soon, because the start of the season he was much better than what he is now. But yeah, I just don't want us to start. Like I said, I made the comment last week about how it was a bit like when Duke played against Barnsley and 30,000 people were absolutely desperate for him to score the goal that he did. And that was great, but we were 5-2 up at that point, and you knew it was just a one-off. He doesn't very often come on the pitch, but I don't want it to become a thing every single game when we get a couple of goals ahead, that right, now's the time to bring on Kyogo and try and get him a goal. I want us to divert away from that before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, I do feel that's probably a product of the situation in the game, because I think if it's and you go back to the level you play, the level I played at, again, I wasn't knocking on the door for any sort of trial for Blues or anything, but when you're dicking aside, then you do bring on players and you're desperate for them to score, or you've got a centre midfielder that hasn't scored for ages, or a keeper, put him on pens. It's still football. It's still trying to do that. I do, but where I probably disagree with you, I can still see Kyogo coming on Wednesday, after, with 20 minutes to go, because that's just a natural substitution potentially. But in that scenario, if he's not on, I don't think they do it. Yeah, I think they're doing it at the moment because it's probably not the right thing. It doesn't matter as much. The game's put to bed. Get him a goal. Yeah. But if there's a choice of trying to play a miracle pass when it's 1-1, or just knocking it wide and building the play a bit more deliberately, I reckon they are going to do that. I think his time will come when there is injuries, and there will be, or suspensions. Don't wish on it. I could see Stano getting sent off at one point because of the way that he is. Wouldn't change it for the world. He's a horrible little get when he's closing people down. He's quite aggro, but that's what you want to see. And he does tread a very fine line, and he gives the ref all sorts of grief. So if he'd found himself getting sent off, or if he's out for a couple of weeks, then Kyogo is the natural replacement. And maybe he needs that full game or to start a game. but he's nowhere near starting that. And that's no
No.
criticism necessarily of him. Nobody gets into that team at the moment. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a shutout. There's that, he'd be mental to change it. So, but I do hear what you're saying. And I think he said that Willumsson wasn't far away. I really want him back in the fold because now I've
Yeah.
seen the way that we play. The way we're playing now suits him a million times more than it did last season. A
Yeah.
million more space, more time, more vision. And we'll see if there is a footballer in there. I'm convinced there is.
Oh yeah, there
I'm
definitely is.
convinced there is. And
Yeah.
he's had some shockers. Not going to say that he hasn't, but again, I just think that it's born out of the the style that we've been playing, the circumstances in games. I think he's going to get a chance to shine, and
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. But I think as far as the way the game's going to play out, obviously the Albion manager is under an absolute ton of pressure, and maybe look, he's probably not had too dissimilar, and maybe the same amount of experience on the analytical side that Davis has had, but they've come from a similar sort of pathway, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
But the difference for Davis was coming into League One with a team or a club that can buy a £15 million striker. And whilst there was an absolute ton of pressure on him, there was pressure on him in a league that, unless you didn't have a clue at all, you should. And I'm not saying 111 points, but promotion wasn't really, in retrospect, it should have been a shoe-in, and it was. Coming into Albion, who haven't been great for a while now, that's a tough assignment as what he's a. I know he's done bits and pieces at Spurs at the top job, but in reality, he's not really had the main job. And it does strike me he's suffering a little bit with what Davis did with us, which
Yeah.
is very, very resolute in the way he's going to play. He ain't going to change his philosophy, and that's it. When Davis was doing that, it didn't matter because we were still winning games. But when you're losing games and you're just doing the same thing, it's a bit like the England cricket team, just brainless, and we'll keep doing the same shit. And guess what? Same result. And that's where I think he's struggling, because I think his head might have gone because he doesn't know what to do now. And
Yeah.
one of his main guys, Malumbu, got himself sent off, so he ain't going to be playing.
No.
So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on them and I don't know, the situation? It's tough, isn't it? We've seen enough of it from the other side, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think West Brom have always been a team that you just, rightly or wrongly, just always expect to be top 10,
Yeah,
pushing for playoffs, don't you? That's just, even if you haven't watched them for 2 or 3 years, you see that they're in the championship, and you just automatically look and go, oh well, they're going to be in the conversation. But they've had, back in over the couple of seasons that have just gone, they've had sort of seasoned championship players in their squad that have carried them a little bit. I can think of like John Swift, for example, Wallace, who was in the team for the last couple of years. They've had players that are very, very good at this level.
yeah,
When I look at their team now, I don't see quite so much of that. I
yeah,
see a lot more players that either I'm not familiar with, or players that have never really quite managed to really prove themselves. So I mean, you've got the two strikers. You've got that Daryl DK, who's just injured
yeah.
99% of the time, which is a shame because there's a player there, you can see it, but you can't keep him fit. What's the other guy's name now? Bloody hell, the one that we always get linked with every summer. Josh Madger, he's another one that started last season brilliantly, scored a load of goals, and then has just gone back to being that guy who either can't stay fit or can't score anymore. So I think, as I say, other than those two, I look at their squad and I don't see real standout players that teams should be worried about. Yet we still put them in that top bracket without any reason. So I think what's happened here, like you said, I think Mason, and you'll see this with a lot of young managers coming in now, I think they do need to, it's not about ego. They need to be prepared to drop down a couple of leagues just to get the experience of winning football, because the experience of winning matches is going to give you so much more than playing with a team that's got a big budget, for example. And I know Davis had both, and I'm not saying West Brom have got a big budget, but what I'm trying to say is that just the experience of dropping down to League One with the view that you're going to win a load of games and get promoted just stands you in so much more stead than joining a team that everybody expects to do well without the experience or resource to be able to then match that same expectation. And I think that's just where he's going to fall down. That's not to say that he can't turn it round, but they're not looking great. They're not being able to get results. And even when they're in positions like they were Saturday, where they look like they're out of nowhere going to get a really vital 3 points that nobody would have expected, to then have their own Jack Robinson moment and lose the game 3-2. Just you can only imagine how much that is then going to cause them a load of crap in the dressing room. And the only caveat to that is that that's what happened to us. And then look what happened to us since. We had that moment where we were looking good against Hull, get stupid red card, and it's galvanised us since then. We've gone to a whole new level. So there's that element of me being perhaps a little bit not worried, because I'm not really that worried, but there's a very small bit of doubt in my mind that is that going to cause them that reaction? Are they going to go, we had it in our grasp and one stupid mistake and it's gone? So we'll see. I mean, I'm going into it feeling confident because we are playing well. Our away form, though, is just terrible.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, the last two away games, Bristol City, which was 75% possession, but toothless. So that was just a bad performance, right?
Yeah.
I think we've got through that a little bit. We are more dynamic. We are creating chances. And I think a better barometer was probably Borough. But again, that didn't go our way. Pate getting injured in the 3rd minute. They're sort of flying high. 2-1. Yeah, okay. We had plenty of chances. Roberts had a couple of chances. Stano had a chance. I more look at that. I look at that and say, yes, we lost, but I think anybody that's not one-eyed either way would say draw was probably a fair result. Yeah. But I'm with you. The stats don't lie, but they also don't lie. And I know it was League One, but you've only got to look at what we were doing last season, and we're a different proposition altogether. And I again wouldn't profess to know a huge amount about Albion, but just listening to Radio WM on the way to and the way back from games, which is hilarious. Between the Wolves and Albion fans,
they're not chuffed, are they?
Absolutely fabulous. But yeah, they sold Fellows, who was their superstar.
Standout.
He had the quality, and they got rid of him. I think there was somebody else that they had a Sante, didn't they? I know they got rid of him a while back, but from what a lot of the callers are saying is that Albion is shipping out a lot of quality and replacing it with not a lot.
Unknowns.
And you made the point, up until probably this season, for the previous 4 or 5, you could probably name quite a few of the Albion players. The ones that you can name now have been there a long time, and you probably question why they've been there so long. And the defence, they ship goals for fun. They did again on Saturday. I know Coventry they're gonna. But again, they do concede, but they score more than they concede, don't they? And they should. I think they're probably going to walk away with the league. But I'd be probably more worried if the manager hadn't have gone. Sorry, if the manager had gone, but now he stayed. Yeah. And Mikey Johnson apparently set up 2 of the goals, the 2 goals on Saturday, and he subbed him at half time for tactical reasons. That when you're in a run like that is a very, very brave move.
Yeah.
And you leave yourself wide open for all the criticism that he's had. So it's a Blues mentality. I'm trying to temper what I actually feel.
4-0.
I reckon it'll be 4-2. I do. I think we're going to. I think we're going to score a shitload of goals because we just look like we're going to.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to live with us, but I also don't think that we're giving up. I still think we're giving up a fair few chances.
Yeah,
I do. Maybe not. I think the only game where we didn't, which I think was just a genuine shutout, was Millwall.
Mm-hmm.
Portsmouth had a few bits and pieces.
They had the ball, didn't they, without really doing a lot. They had a spell for about 15, 20 minutes where we couldn't get out of our half, but they didn't really test the keeper, did they? So
No.
yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And we've shipped 2 against Bristol, we shipped 2 against Borough. But like I said, I genuinely believe we're going to stuff quite a few past them, but I just don't think we'll keep them at the other end. But I'll take 4-2.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
definitely take 4-2.
Considering just looking at it, considering we've in the 8 away games we've currently played, we've scored 5. I would also take a 4-2.
Yeah, again, I just don't think it's getting carried away purely from, again, look, who's better, Borough at home or Albion at home?
Well,
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my prediction. Let's go for a more sensible shout.
Yeah, well, you say that, but as I've proved so many times, and I will continue to prove, you could tell me that we're starting the game with all of our players in blindfolds, and we're only going to put 5 players on the pitch against their 11, and I would still find a way to convince myself that we're going to win the game. I do think we're going to win the game. We've been awkward, wouldn't it? Then but then said, "Oh, we're going to draw or something." So I think it will be. I'm going to say 2-1, based on the fact that I think it is going to be harder than we probably think it is. But on the flip side of that, if Scott Hogan can score a hat trick at the Hawthorns, anyone can score at the Hawthorns. So with that in mind, yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. I think the same as you. I think it's that we are going to concede some chances. And this could be one of those games, a little bit like the Blackburn game, where we probably concede a little bit early on, but then sort of manage to galvanise ourselves and find our way back in. Having said that, now I'm sort of thinking about it. Like you said at the very start of this pod, we have been starting games really, really well, especially at home. Away, it's just not the same because you haven't got that same atmosphere and motivation. And especially, and I'm not saying this is necessarily to our detriment, but you're going to be walking out into a stadium that's not only are they not supporting their own team right now, but they're definitely not supporting you. So it's just going to be a very hostile atmosphere from the get-go. And that's mainly because of how they're performing themselves. But they also don't like us. And West Brom are always desperate. I find this, especially when I talk to people at work, I find that West Brom are the team that are always trying to force rivalries and force derbies. So they are going to see this as a much bigger derby than we are. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just going to be a very hostile atmosphere. There's going to be a lot of very unhappy people. But your 4-2 could be on if we score early because their heads are going to fall to pieces, aren't they?
And that's it. And we certainly said it. The game on Saturday, first goal was really important. The game against Borough, that was really important, and we didn't get it. And I've got it the same on tomorrow night. I think if we can get the first goal and get it early, it will be toxic in there. It'll be toxic, and their heads will go. It's like I said, we've been there. How many times have we been there?
Yeah.
So,
has a manager ever been sacked at half time?
Could
we make that happen?
I definitely think the writing's been on the wall a few times at half time. To be fair, fucking Eustace was sacked before the fucking game when he actually beat him.
That's true. I reckon Lee Bowyer was sacked at half time as well.
Yeah, and when he was in the dugouts. Yeah. But it's I'm with you. Not going to be easy, and I get the point about the hostility, but there is nothing better in football when you've got a settled team and you are just at the absolute top of your game and everybody's like desperate to play, desperate to get back on the pitch, because why wouldn't they be? They're just smashing everybody. And there is I've never ever subscribed to this home and away bollocks. I never have. Once you're set on a system and you're confident in the system, play the system. The only difference is you haven't got as many fans in the ground. I've never, ever... I've managed sides for years and years and years and years. I never changed it, ever. So if we can absolutely destroy teams at home, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So
you're not a fan of home and away, but what's your view on Neighbours?
Yeah, but to be fair, much better.
Other Australian soap operas are available.
Much better. But yeah, it just does my boxing. So, and I just think it's a really easy excuse. It's 11v11. There's one ball. It's a football pitch.
It's not exactly a big journey either, is it? So, of all the away games you can face, it's the least away of all the away games.
Yeah. But Christ Almighty, there's a big difference in culture. My God, it's like going into Mordor. It's only down the road, but Jesus Christ. So anyway, let's not go down that road.
Yeah, on that note, sorry to any West Brom fans that might be watching.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you need an interpreter on WM for some of them. It's unbelievable. But anyway, on that interesting note, mate, thanks a lot for that. So 2-1 for you, 4-2 for me.
Yeah.
HMS piss the league if we win, and or if not, back to square one, and another potential false dawn gone. But yeah,
if Kyogo scores, I will wear a blonde wig in his honour.
What is going on with that, by the way? What is that? I mean, I'm all for shattering some sort of he's trying to get out of a rut, just do anything to not get out of it. But the hairpiece was controversial, wasn't
it? We made the comment that we reckon that maybe at the end of the last game he accidentally used Lyndon Dyke's shower gel.
yeah. It's it ain't great, is it? But anyway, right, mate. I will. Well, I will see you tomorrow.
Yes, you will.
And let's have a chin wag, and hopefully we can get the right result.
Yeah.
Right. We will undoubtedly be back again before the Watford game. So we'll do a preview of that and hopefully review a Derby win. But between now and then, keep right on.